right, MAGFest. It's 10 o'clock, which means you're ours now.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear us well? Hello, 1, 2.
Everybody
Yay,
good? All our
awesome.
friends in the cheap seats?
Yeah.
They're all the same price. That's the joke. Are we having a good MAGFest?
Yay. I'm so glad to hear that. This is our first time here, and this has been so cool. I'm definitely coming back next year.
Oh, we are 100% coming back. Y'all have treated us so good. Staff has been so good. Please be very kind to your staff. They worked their butts off an entire year. They are going to be working on 2025 on Monday morning.
So thank you all for coming. You know, this is a panel that's really important to us, really important to something we wanted to discuss with people. It matters a lot to me that we're able to put this forward. So without further ado, I'd like to talk about why there definitely is a Dunkin' Donuts in Silent Hill. And I'm going to prove it to you very quickly. So I think the first thing we have to establish is, what is Silent Hill, right? Like, for some people who might not be initiated, it's important to go through those things. So Silent Hill is a horror series created by Konami. It came out in 1999. The second game really codified it as part of the horror video game canon.
Okay.
What?
Okay. Well, you did make a nice graphic about it.
I did, yeah.
All right, but you cut it there, I assume.
No, this is our panel.
Okay. No. This is not the panel that MAGFest accepted.
We submitted two Silent Hill
We submitted
panels,
two Silent Hill panels.
which is the Dunkin' Donuts
One was
panel,
definitely the Dunkin' panel.
and then one is the spooky panel.
Yeah, one is the panel, about like feminine perspectives on Silent Hill. Like how like understands the trauma that people go
Did
through.
they accept the
cool
spooky
empathy.
panel?
Yeah.
But I did fun things.
Yeah.
I did a lot of research on this.
You did. Yeah. I got bad news, hon.
Why?
They accepted the spooky panel.
Oh. Okay. I know. I did so much research, you guys.
Okay. I just need to know that you are comfortable moving on from the Dunkin' thing before we do this.
Yeah, okay. We'll get on to this. We'll talk about this one that I guess you guys are here for.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. Which we appreciate a lot, even though it's not Dunkin'. We really appreciate it.
But, getting started on this, I think it's important for you guys to know who the heck we even are. So, hello everybody. I'm Rinny. I go by Idol Rinny on Twitter. I'm not going to say X. You won't make me. Idol Princess Rinny on Instagram. Henry Townsend is my ideal man, and I want to cuddle with him.
That's a handsome guy right there. Oh, that's awkward if I say that while my picture comes up. That's not what I meant. I meant Henry. Hi, everybody. I'm Zack. This is my username on Twitter. Still not calling it X. And Instagram. If you already follow me on Twitter, I'm sorry. James Sunderland is going to hell, and I am going to make sure of it. As we go into this, there are tons and tons and tons of approaches, a million different discussions, 1,000 different beautiful essays about Silent Hill. So as we go into this, we just want to cover our rules of engagement. First thing, obviously, there's a lot of very challenging content in Silent Hill. So we talked about, content warnings. It's a serious series with some mature subject matter, and we generally managed to hone it down to Silent Hill. But in all seriousness, here are some of the subjects we're going to discuss today. I'm not going to show anything in any explicit detail. This is going to be relatively PG-13, but if any of this is distressing to you, only love, totally get it, no disrespect. The format of this panel in particular, it is not wild fan theories, especially about the plot. This is not hard facts. We are not looking to show you how deeply we have read silenthill.wikia.com. All right, we're not going to take many questions, but I am curious why that inspired a question. This is as high as it goes, apparently. But Will Theater.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you so much for pointing that out. And also, this is not a collection of Masahiro Ito's tweets.
No matter how great they are or not great they
Or
can
not
be.
great at times. But Masahiro Ito, excellent artist, sure loves shedding some light on an intentionally enigmatic game. What this panel is, however, is analysis, observation, our personal perspectives on it that we are so happy to share with you today. This is a deep celebration of the theme and meaning that is core to the Silent Hill experience, and it is also our very cool takes.
So, oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So we wanted to make sure, obviously, that when we start at the beginning. So right out of the gate, Silent Hill all immediately plays with something that is really, really cool. It stars a male character who is a father looking for his lost child, but almost immediately, the stuff that goes on doesn't seem to pertain to him specifically. Harry Mason is a very good dad, and he's very cool, but he doesn't really have a lot going on too much as a character until later on in the series. A lot of Silent Hill is known for having psychological horror aspects, but Harry Mason himself is a little bit of a blank slate in the very beginning. Instead, Silent Hill kind of focuses on the horror done by another central character who is Alessa, a very important character to the series. Alessa is somebody who grew up in a very horrific, very abused family relationship. She is forced to do a lot of, yes, I know. She's forced to have a lot of things put upon her. And the town itself seems to be more of a haunting of her perspective and how things go to her and how things make her feel uncomfortable or scared or sad. It's very interesting with Silent Hill that the perspective of the game is done through different vignettes of Alessa's life. You go through the hospital where she suffered from recovering from, being immolated by her family. She's in the elementary school where it's implied that she was harassed and bullied by family members and those of her classmates. And the game really focuses on how those things can be really horrible and uncomfortable. Also critically important is that in Silent Hill 1, the religious order that is part of the series is done by these horrible, horrible women who puts her daughter through something similar to the idea of forcing her daughter to carry on the birth of their new god. It is the big thing that the religious cult really wants to do, and Alessa has to become this vessel for this god. And this is really, really shown through when you get through the game. Alessa herself is being put in a position where the only thing she can do is take away this innocent part of herself, this innocent girl, and send her away, who we find out is Harry Mason's daughter who went missing in the beginning of Silent Hill 1. This is the only way that Alessa feels like she can be free from this torture, from this abuse, and these things that are put upon her. It's the only way that she can go back to zero and be a small girl again. If Harry fails to really engage with this, to really be empathetic to her journey, Harry instead deals with, as the final boss of the game, with Alessa herself, with the form of the incubator. And the implications of that is frankly horrific. But if Harry takes the time to get to know what these things occurred, if he watches some VHS tapes, if he reads some notes about this, what this girl suffered through, he instead is able to save his daughter and also save this girl from this torture. And it's really interesting to us about how Harry is shown to be such a good person through his empathy, through his understanding. You have to engage with the other characters of the game, such as Lisa and Sybil and things like that, and really understand what's happening within the town in order to achieve the ending in which Harry fights the incubus instead, the creature that Alessa has to give birth to, and is able to free her from this. After which, it's supernatural, googity gook, but Alessa is able to be reborn back to that kind of innocent version of herself and live again without that torture. Now, put a pin in all this, because this all seems a little bit ambiguous and a little bit weird, and I promise we're going to come back to this a little bit later in the panel in a very, very interesting way.
Silent Hill 1 was obviously psychological horror, but it was not psychological horror that dealt particularly deep into the raw psychology of its characters. They weren't quite there yet, but god damn it if they weren't there with Silent Hill 2. Now, if we're going to talk about Silent Hill 2 and the stuff going on in it, then unfortunately we got to talk a lot about James Sunderland. And first, we're going to say some stuff about James tonight. We are going to start talking about James as an everyman. All parts of James's depiction are meant to make him look like as traditional and normal a dude as possible. You would see anyone like James walking down the street, going by his appearance, which, based off of the appearance of the main character of Jacob's Ladder, especially his coat, down to his voice. Guy C, he gives such a specific performance as James, but he gives one which is largely non-threatening. He gives one which is very, very inward, something which is often not particularly approachable. James also, if you compare this to major releases of the era, especially, quite obviously, the Resident Evil franchise, he is physically weak, he is cowardly, he is defenseless, especially if we look at the leading man who would later in the series be called a boulder-punching asshole.
I love him.
I love him, but all that man's brains went down to his biceps.
Yeah, it's good.
This,
Sorry, I just like looking at Chris.
Listen, I like looking at Chris too. This is actually emphasized in one very specific and I would believe very important scene in which James is unable to open a refrigerator as part of a puzzle. In this moment, Maria really comes down on him for it. I want us to put a pin in this scene because this is going to be, I believe, pretty essential about what we're talking about later on. However, we now accept James, pretty normal dude. Walk with me on the journey to talk about James as what we're talking about tonight, a bit of a misogynist. It is the opinion of Silent Hill 2 that James Sunderland is a liar, a coward, and a murderer. Everybody always gets their photos in on this slide. I'm not surprised. I'll give you 1 minute because your cosplay's so gosh darn good. We'll come back to it at the end. Don't worry about it. The thing is in our mindsets, what we want to imagine is that the average terrible, evil person, the average misogynist, looks like something monstrous, evil, obviously terrible, something desperately scary. But in actuality, a lot of them kind of just look like normal dudes. A lot of them, unfortunately, kind of just look like James. This is about as standard as a dude can possibly get, and it's possible for beliefs and perspectives like this to be contained within someone like this. After all, James is, from his perspective, the hero of his own story. There is a block that keeps him from seeing anything that would cast him in a negative light. And until he is challenged, he is that hero in a desperate fight for survival to go rescue his princess deep within the haunted town. But no real-life misogynist believes that they are that. No bad person believes that they are that. Nice guys believe that they are, just like him, the heroes of their own stories. And the thing is, in life, it's so easy to not hurt people and to not be a bad person if nobody challenges you. If you are going through life unchallenged, it's easy to be our best selves. And James becomes something really dark and really awful the moment that challenge enters his life. Example number 1 is Mary. Mary, his beloved wife, devoted to in sickness and in health until the moment that she got kind of unpleasant to talk to and she got kind of ugly. She got sick. It happens. And James's response to this new challenge in his life was to find the nurses who work at the hospital actually kind of hot. Something that he would stick with all through the adventures of Silent Hill 2, quite famously. But what does he produce in Silent Hill 2? the perfect, gorgeous woman. Someone who is like Mary in every single way except for two things. She is not his wife, and she is really attractive. The moment that he needs to produce something akin to his wife that cements the heroic journey he is on, he creates a person who could not possibly ever challenge him. Accepting this, we must move on to talk about James as Pyramid Head. Now, I apologize for spoiling the game, but this guy is actually from this guy.
Are you serious?
I'm really sorry.
We didn't put a spoiler warning in the beginning of the panel.
We didn't, and I know nobody's talking about this.
I know. Nobody's ever mentioned this ever.
Ever, but I just think this is my cool theory. I said we wouldn't get into cool theories, but we got into one. I'm sorry. However, accepting that this is the case, despite being an extension of James, Pyramid Head is nothing at all like James. James is not threatening, he is not sexual, but as his extension, Pyramid Head is terrifying. And he is famously the wielder of the giant knife, the most obvious phallic weaponry in the game. If you do find James attractive, no disrespect, more power to you, but that is not my opinion. Our grand theory of Pyramid Head, thus, is that James independently represents the traditional man. But what the game is saying is that even a traditional man is capable of containing a violent, hateful monster, regardless of what a nice guy and regardless of what a hero they appear to be when they are unchallenged. And so I would like to bring us back to this moment we talked about earlier. Now, a lot of people say, super understandably, that they believe the quintessential Pyramid Head scene is when James is in the closet. Totally understand that. One of his earlier appearances. I believe it's this one. In this scene, James is failing to use his strength to open something up, and Maria makes fun of him for it. You're supposed to be the big man. You're supposed to be strong.
She very quickly emasculates him.
Very quickly responds to it by emasculating him. He needs to be here to save the little girl who needs help, the pretty girl, Maria. Instantly after this takes place, the form of his rage appears. Pyramid Head appears to come chase them down and wield his violence and his phallic imagery against Maria. And James would be able to save him if not for the fact that, just like with the refrigerator, James is too physically weak to do anything about it. In this way, James presents some of the passive traits that are seen in research done by psychologists on sexual predators. He experiences shame and guilt, which causes some of that block. Inability to take responsibility. Whoo boy, has he got that one on the board. Lack of meaningful intimate relationships. I will grant part of this is because he's extremely weird to talk to. And definitely a lack of morality. However, additional traits, active ones, include being impulsive, having erratic and violent behavior, and most certainly a lack of empathy. All of these are filled out with one bit on James and with one bit on Pyramid Head, and smashed together, you get one whole asshole.
And it's very interesting because it feels like Silent Hill really wants to kind of narrow that down and show us, like, you know, a person who can be like this doesn't look like Pyramid Head. They look like somebody you could possibly know. They look like someone you could meet. They act like somebody that maybe you are already friends with, and these things aren't really going to come through until scarier stuff starts happening. And I feel like because of that, it's really important that I get to talk to you guys about what Dunkin' Donuts is.
What?
So, okay, I didn't get to explain this earlier, but
You said there was no more!
I didn't say there was no more.
MAGFest
I said I was going to move on from it, but I
panel.
didn't.
You
Okay,
need to move on
so
from this.
Dunkin' Donuts is a fast food franchise,
They
right?
know what Dunkin' Donuts
that takes
is.
over a lot of different cafes,
We're on the
American
East Coast. Who
corporatization.
needs this?
But I established what Silent Hill was, and I didn't establish what Dunkin' Donuts was.
This is relevant information for a panel that was rejected.
I know, but like we can still get it in here. They're already here. We can just do this.
We cannot do two panels at once. We will get in so much trouble.
See? For some reason, Dunkin' decided to just change their name to just Dunkin'. It could have kept with Dunkin' Donuts.
I will grant that is
and then they got
ridiculous.
rid of the flatbreads. I
Yes.
don't know why they
The
got rid of the
flatbreads
flatbreads.
were pretty good. I will grant that.
You know,
We literally do not have time for this, and I will say a little tasteless given the subject matter.
yeah, but Dunkin's tasty.
I need right now a promise from you that this is it.
This
I
is
need-
Dunkin', yes.
No. No, see, because I see what you did there. I need a promise from you that you have moved on,
Okay.
that you have found peace with this.
Yes,
and that
I
there
am
is-
moving on from this slide, okay? We can move on. We can move on. Go ahead. Click the next thing. Bum
Okay.
everybody out.
Okay.
Go.
Well, I wanted to talk about Maria. I would like to talk about Maria as how she is presented, the ideal woman. Maria rocks. We do really like Maria. I'd like to premise this with this. But Maria is meant to present as like an iconically Hollywood vision of a sexy and unattainable woman, someone who is a little bit distant but always a little bit awesome and absolutely gorgeous.
What do you think her iced coffee order is?
I just cannot do this.
Okay.
I just cannot do this with
go
you.
ahead.
And it's a
Talk about
ridiculous
Maria.
question because she would get a nice latte anyway.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah.
Macchiato's a pretty good answer. I'll give you the macchiato. Would have been a Dunkachino, but no more of that.
Like the flatbreads.
Stop with the flatbreads.
Okay.
You cannot say on the flatbreads. Maria, as some people may know, is loosely designed after Christina Aguilera's appearance at the 1999 Teen Choice Awards. Yes, we did check the Silent Hill wiki. It's just not what this panel's about. She is an extension of James's delusions, exactly like Pyramid Head is, though. But James's delusions shoot off in two separate directions. And if we accept that this is the case, then we must understand that there is also something fourth wall breaking and meaningful happening here.
She's also like her own person, like from like a prequel thing. It's complicated. For the sake of this panel, just go with this slide.
We're not
okay?
going to stress about Born from a Wish right now.
For just one moment.
The thing is that Maria, she exists and is created to be the perfect woman in accordance with James's gaze. Now, we understand that that sucks. This is easy to tell because James sucks and doesn't deserve to be happy. But we see this, understand that she has been crafted specifically to please him, and we can see that this is horrible. But if we allow this to break the fourth wall for just a second, how often, we must ask, are video game characters created to be subject and entertain our gaze? But whenever this happens, it is cool, awesome, and we will be ashamed of our words and deeds if we criticize it.
It's important to establish that the two of us really like these characters and we think
Yes.
they're very cool, but
Yes.
the point of them is very different. And I love how Silent Hill plays with that perspective.
The ultimate message here is that there simply is no ideal person. When Mary exhibits rage, when there's miscommunications, when there is confusion between the two of them, in those moments, James pulls away from her, even in spite of the fact that he appears to be extremely devoted to her, when she is giving him the friendliness that, once again, doesn't challenge him, that allows him to be the valiant white knight who is saving her on this journey through the absolute horrors.
I will never be over that reading of Anyway.
Oh, an incredible reading of Anyway.
No one has ever said Anyway the way she does in that scene.
If you forget this, go back to this scene on YouTube. I think Jacob Geller even brings it up
Yeah.
in his video essay about it. Incredible line readings. Her actress rules, actually. And the thing is, the moment that she presents this challenge, even in an ending which demands absolute devotion to Maria. Very confusing how you get endings in this, but if you play this so that you listen to the directions where she goes, you make sure she is not harmed, you don't look at the photo of your old wife, you stay by her side the whole time. Even in spite of this, the moment all she does is cough, James is over her with the just horrendous response to the illness that we know is coming with the cold. You'd better do something about that cough.
Ugh.
Hate this man. The worst man. I said, I'm going to make sure he doesn't see heaven, and I meant it. Now, we'd also like to talk a little bit about how these concepts of femininity and masculinity, some of the damage that can be offered by some of these perspectives, on the rest of the sidecast. I'd like to start with Eddie. Eddie has been traumatized by the bullying, by the shame that he has gone through. It's understandable, the fact that someone could be affected by difficult experiences by this. And normally we'd be able to empathize with the fact that he has gone through this. But Eddie doesn't heal. He doesn't self-actualize. This toxicity that's been put into him, he instead continues to cycle forward. He finds something smaller than himself, in this case, animals. He finds something smaller than himself that he can exert his own cruelty upon. In the inverse, we have Laura, famous for Theme of, a song that shreds. Laura's annoying. Laura calls James bad names, which to review, we support. James sucks ass. But she is an absolute pest for the duration of your journey, but guess what? She's a kid. That's what kids are like. That's totally fair. And Laura, who doesn't exhibit any of these traits because she's just a child, is able to go through the quest without these horrors being presented. Laura is on the exact same quest to find Mary, and she's the only person doing it for legitimately good-hearted, selfless reasons. And then we cannot leave this without talking about Angela, a character I really, really, really love. Angela is a survivor traumatized by difficult experiences. Angela, who does rock in her own way, has been harmed by close family members. And thanks to all of the presence she has in the story, we can see the pain she's been through and we can empathize with the place that she is in. There is a lot of empathy and love for Angela in the story here. After the boss fight against a monster that is meant to represent one of her abusers, she responds to the defeat of this by brutalizing the corpse of the boss left over.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. But James's response to this is instead to chide her for doing so, to have this exhibition of rage against something that has hurt her so deeply. And usually in basically any Hollywood movie, when a woman who went through an experience like this were to do something like this, the work would often, 9 times out of 10, criticize her for doing so. But in Silent Hill 2, the next thing Angela does is interesting. She turns on James and she confronts him over the fact that, why are you going after Maria anyway? You probably killed her, didn't you? Which,
Mary.
Spoiler, Mary, he better not kill Maria.
I know, I love her.
Mary, which, guess what, is right. James sucks. She's totally right to turn on him in this scene. In a moment in which she would otherwise be criticized, and it seems like she is being told that she needs to chill out in the face of daring to have an emotional outburst in front of the image of her abuser, Silent Hill 2 instead hands her the keys to deconstruct James as he deserves to be deconstructed at this point in the story. Angela is the one person who gets to say exactly what needs to be said, which is to review that James Sunderland is a liar, a coward, and a goddamn murderer.
It's really important that Silent Hill 2 perceives this as part of the story. It's widely accepted that, James is an incredible protagonist. We've been dunking on him all day so far. But it is really cool.
Tremendous character.
Oh, yeah.
Great
But it's really cool to be taking the reins of a character like this and have the sidecast comment on the kind of people who are like this. I really love that Silent Hill 2 does this. And this seems like, kind of a out of nowhere question, but are there any Bostonians in the crowd?
Why are you asking this question?
A couple of Bostonians?
I
Cool.
need
We're
to
from
know why
Boston
you're asking
too.
this question.
And I think it's really important that all of you understand that there
Rinny,
are
Rinny,
many.
God damn it.
There are this many Dunkin' Donutses in Silent Hill. Not Silent Hill, in Boston. Dude, I'm so proud of my city right now.
You made all of them a promise.
I said we were
You
moving.
promised MAGFest Prime.
Yes, and I said we were moving on from that slide. What's your order? What's my order? Okay, Dunkin' Donuts iced coffee, not cream and sugar, caramel hazelnut swirl with 2 creams. That's my order.
But no sugar, right?
No sugar.
The problem is when I get it for you, I get the sugar and then it doesn't work
And then
at
I
all.
die, is what happens.
True.
Yeah, but like I need you guys to know that there are this many Dunkin' Donuts in Boston. I'm so happy with this. Oh my God.
I will grant that this is nice.
Yeah.
And that... Rinny, I swear to God.
It's okay. It's okay. It's my time now.
No
We're going to
more.
talk about Silent Hill 3.
But no more. Let's go! Let's go!
Silent Hill 3 is my favorite, you guys. So, being a girl's hard, okay? Y'all, being a girl's tough. And Silent Hill 3 goes, yeah, it is. The themes from Silent Hill 1 come into full swing in Silent Hill 3. If you recall earlier, I asked you guys to put a pin in Silent Hill 1. Well, now we're going to gently take that pin off of the wall, place it down here at the panelist table, and give it a nice long look, because we're going to be here for a little bit. Silent Hill 3 focuses a lot on the themes of womanhood, of femininity, about becoming a woman in a very weird time, in a very weird way. And it really, really comes through stronger than absolutely ever, thanks to the protagonist, Heather Mason. I know.
Deserved, my God.
What an angel. Perfection. It comes right out of the gate swinging with this one. Silent Hill 3 starts after a weird nightmare that Heather has by her being stalked by a guy that she's never met before. It is very jarring for me to start playing this game and have the protagonist experience things that I experience on a daily basis, you know? She's at the mall just trying to have a good time, and this guy comes up to her, claims to know who she is, claims to have stuff about her birth, and he's trying to get her attention. She immediately goes into the mall to try to find a crowd to get away from him, to be comfortable, and he just will not freaking stop. Unfortunately for her, the mall gets a little wonky, things happen. But it's really interesting to me how Silent Hill 3 almost immediately starts with showing something that, unfortunately, 1 out of 3 women can talk about having had experienced that.
But what I think really, really rules is that it uses the usual direction and presence of horror in Silent Hill, but it's for a totally mundane thing. There's the mall has not gotten rusty and otherworlded yet or anything like that. But that same sense of tension and of pursuit actually exists in this scene regardless.
And Silent Hill 3 really wants to put that emphasis on, the outside forces that go and take part of women's lives and really put that struggle in us. And it really is exemplified with the Order, which is now back in full force in Silent Hill 3. The Order, like I mentioned before, is a religious cult that believes that Alessa, and in this case Heather, now being, she is the grown-up version of Harry's daughter from the first game. They firmly believe that it is Heather's duty and the rightful thing for her to do to give birth to their new god. They're going to try again this time. It didn't work the first time, but maybe if you just do it one more time, it'll go through.
It didn't work for them, but for us, it just might work.
And it almost immediately wants you to take perspective on the fact that these kind of societies and these kinds of expectations are put on women, as young as Heather is. I believe she's 16. She's very much a teenager still in Silent Hill 3. And immediately she has to grapple with the idea that her duty is to give birth, her duty is to birth this god, and she has no choice in the matter. And this is very, very exemplified with this lady. Oh, Claudia. Oh, Claudia. Claudia is Alessa, as mentioned before, Heather's previous form, toxic best friend. Everybody's got one of those. Especially if you're growing up, especially in high school, you find somebody like Alessa did who shares an intimate history with you. Both Claudia and Alessa suffered at their hands of their parents. They both were mentally and physically abused by their parents in order to, put their religious thoughts in the forefront. Except for Claudia, she views this obviously was horrific for her and she's not happy with it, but she does believe in the faith that she was brought up in. For her, Claudia, this is the right thing to do. And with that, Claudia is also expressing what, we talked earlier about the toxic masculinity of the cast of Silent Hill 2, and especially James, but Claudia does also exhibit toxic femininity. She believes that she's caring, she believes that she's nurturing, and she does this by controlling Heather, by trying to force her to be what Claudia believes she should be. It's for her own good. Heather doesn't understand what she's talking about, but Claudia does. And Claudia, as her friend, Claudia, as the good woman from their religious cult, is going to do this. This comes through very specifically in a very weird scene where Heather gets rid of the God baby that's within her. It's supernatural. Again, just move on. And Claudia, her horrified that the idea that Heather wouldn't carry this baby to term, takes this supernatural baby and then eats it and then becomes the god that they were trying to do, but it's all matters of messed up and it doesn't go well for her. And that's how dedicated Claudia is to imposing this upon Heather.
I think that probably it was after this scene, which just is obviously meant to evoke the imagery and concept of an abortion. Mm-hmm. It's after this scene that we went, okay, I think this game's saying some stuff, and I think maybe we need to talk about a panel
just
about
a little
this
bit.
Stuff. I also want to say that you can totally, just as a side note, you can totally see how the thought behind Silent Hill and the storytelling of it really, really, really grows and expands, because the Order obviously exists in Silent Hill 1, but is not explored this deeply, this thematically in 1 at all, whereas 3 really, really, really goes for the gut and has stuff to say about it.
And with this scene in particular, it was just so strange, but it was also, just like with the opening, of the stalking that happened, it was just such a weird gut punch to have this happen, and I really wanted to put emphasis on this. We talked a lot about how Heather's life is kind of put on by the, gender roles that are put upon her, the religious expectations in society that goes on. But we also wanted to talk about the expectations that are put upon her, and again, in mundane ways, and again, from ways that a lot of women, especially at this age, experience. One of the weirdest side stories within Silent Hill 3 is Heather's #1 fan, Stanley Coleman. Don't woo him. Stanley Coleman is maybe imaginary, maybe not. It's hard to say, but he's also an individual who believes that he is entitled to Heather's time, entitled to Heather's affection. When you first come upon this, it's completely missable. You find a note with a doll next to it. If you examine the doll before examining the note, Heather will point out that the doll looks like one that she played with as a kid. She thinks it's super cute and she finds it adorable. If you read the note, which has Stanley just start talking about how much he likes her, Heather will then be disgusted by the doll and won't take it with her. Throughout the hospital section of Silent Hill 3, you can keep coming upon these notes, and Stanley starts to get very weird almost immediately. He's confused as to why Heather didn't take his gift for her. He wants Heather to do it, and he finds it adorable that she's so shy. She doesn't know what to do with his affections. Later on, he insists that she hasn't realized that, she likes him too. She senses it. She knows that she will fall in love with him the same way he has fallen for her. And then he starts describing how she will taste, how he expects their intimacy will be like. Keep in mind, you've never seen this guy. You will never see this guy. And the time that you maybe kind of see this guy, he's like on a hospital bed. It's hard to tell if that's even a person there. Heather has no idea who this individual is, but he believes that he is entitled to her intimacy, entitled to her time. And after that, he insists that, you have to start giving to me now. I've been trying to give you a doll. I've been trying to give you my affection. You and I are together. You and I are in love. And he tells her that they're going to be together no matter what. She doesn't have a choice. Until he starts telling her, well, you keep reading my notes, but you don't come to me. You don't want to be with me. You know, you're actually the one that has power over me. You are the one that's choosing to do this. If you rejected me, I would be done. I don't even know what I would do without you. And it's so freaky to have this like immediate expectation on Heather from this man, until finally the final note from him just declares her as his goddess, as his lover. Again, you've never seen this, but he firmly believes that this is something that he's entitled to and something he should get to be a part of. It's to me one of the most like bone-chilling parts of the game. It for me is something that really like kind of like screwed me up, but in a good way that like, you know, horror is allowed to give you that catharsis.
I'm like, honestly, just watching you play this, because I was way too scared to play this. It has been on her to do all of these. Just watching you play this, I am able to empathize with the concept of it is spooky to be stalked and have notes talking to you. The lived experience sounds so much scarier, which is why I'd like to draw your attention to some of the most notable locations that people have pointed out for Silent Hill. Some people say that it might be in Maine. Some people say it might be Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
Are you serious
If
right
you
now?
compare it to the numbers of Dunkin' Donuts that are actually in these locations, then Pennsylvania probably a pretty likely one, because that's like 600 Dunkins.
Yeah,
that
like
are
if
in
you take
there.
account the weird Centralia thing, yeah, but like,
exactly.
are you for real right now?
Yeah, I know, but it was getting really.
Did you steal this from my other slideshow?
I did pull it from the slideshow. I just thought it was getting really spooky. I looked ahead and it was, I mean, this was getting bleak. So,
Oh my god.
you know, my thought, Pennsylvania.
No, it's definitely Maine. It's definitely Maine.
Yeah, but so, you know,
Harry like goes to like Portland after.
so, you know, Dunk.
No, that's why there's definitely a Dunkin' in Silent Hill, because like of these numbers, I get it.
So yeah, I know, but I understand the interest in the Dunkin' panel
Now,
now.
yeah, I bet you do. Anyway, now it's my turn, and I understand why you got frustrated, because I still have things to talk about.
Yeah, okay, but just all right.
All right, I'm moving on.
That's fine.
We've been talking a lot about, you know, the imposition about the external forces that get put upon on Heather through religion, through gender roles, through different men and things like that. However, there is also an imposition that is put upon the self. Who are you supposed to be as a woman? Who are you supposed to be when you grow from a teenager to an adult? And the mirror scene, the mirror room in Silent Hill 3, I always felt was very symbolic. Alessa from Silent Hill 1 is now seen as a saint, even though she failed to give birth to the god. She almost did. However, whenever Heather sees her throughout the game, she sees this horrific form of herself. It's referred to as the memory of Alessa. It's the Alessa that everybody says that Heather should be. And this encroaching feeling comes through in the entirety of Silent Hill 3, and especially in the mirror scene, as the image of Heather gets distorted to look like whatever it is that the memory of Alessa looks like, until it seeps out and starts coming towards Heather herself. I find this room so cool. Both obviously technology, doing the cool stuff developers did to get this room to happen, but also as the metaphor. It's got like a kind of Stephen King-esque menstruation thing going on, but also it has a very, very cool, you know, imagery about facing and combating yourself, facing and combating who you are supposed to be. And also, who does that matter? Does the Heather who exists now matter compared to the Heather that she's supposed to be, the Heather that people put in front of her, the one that people want her to be? Silent Hill 3 also decides that trauma doesn't necessarily mean that's who you are. Alessa herself doesn't understand why, when she sees Heather fight back against these things. There are notes from Alessa talking about how horrible things were for her, how this abuse and this torture made her feel, about how she doesn't understand why Heather wouldn't just give up, why Heather wouldn't just end her life to just escape all of these things. And throughout the game in Silent Hill 3, Heather is kind of not necessarily understanding until finally she awakens to these memories. And Heather doesn't agree with this. She specifically notes that she does remember that those things happened to her. She does remember that this was horrible, that these things are put upon her, but she doesn't have to let it define her. And I think it's beautiful, and I think it's wonderful that she can go against these things that are put upon her by literally kicking God in the face. It is so cool. I love this character so freaking much, you guys.
Heather rules, dude.
And she gets to be, at the end of the game, she gets to pull a prank, make a joke of her own thing. She gets to own the things that happened to her. She's not defined by this. She kills God and she looks great as a blonde. She has a wonderful time with it. And, and at no point does Silent Hill ever shy away from these things. But at the end, it is still a hopeful message about getting to be yourself and getting to have ownership of these things that happens to you. Now, we talked a lot about Silent Hill 3, and unfortunately we don't have that much time. I wish we could do this panel for 4 hours to go through all these different games. But we do have a couple of honorable mentions we wanted to get through. First, we have Scarlet Fitch from Silent Hill Homecoming. She is a very quick and interesting little microcosm of what we've talked about. She was kind of a rebellious daughter of one of the guys in Silent Hill Homecoming, and her father doesn't like the kind of girl she's becoming. So her father kills her and then puts her in a very specific looking body to kind of create this ideal woman, this obedient child. And it was very jarring to see what the story was. And Homecoming has a lot about, the difference of childhood and how to raise your children and things like that. And with Scarlet, I felt like this was very poignant. We also have Murphy Pendleton from Downpour. Murphy has a very interesting backstory in that his child was killed, and Murphy is seeking revenge for this. And in one of the few things that Downpour does that's cool, you, throughout the choices in the game, throughout what you do as a player, can decide whether or not Murphy can seek retribution for this and act upon violence on people who don't deserve it because of his anger. And in this, become the stalker-like enemy of the game throughout. If you commit these acts of violence in this anger, the final boss of the game becomes Murphy in this kind of stalker monster thing that's been throughout the game. And you play the final boss throughout somebody else's perspective fighting against this. Or you can have Murphy grow and become empathetic. You can have Murphy understand that what happened to his child was not right, but the people who are around him shouldn't suffer because of that rage and because of that problem. And it should be centered on the person who caused him harm. We also wanted to talk about these lovely dudes, Walter and Henry from Silent Hill 4. Walter is we talked a lot about how James is kind of nuts. Walter is the truly unhinged, truly final form of what that person could be. Walter is James if he had no limits and all of the religious trauma possible. Walter was also, a lot of abuse is in Silent Hill and throughout the series. And Walter was abused by his father into not being the kind of man he's supposed to be. Walter was emotional and scared and a kid who didn't really understand what to do. And his father was like, that's not how a guy's supposed to be, and would be very, very cruel to him. In lieu of this, Walter decided that what he needed in his life was a feminine presence. He needed his mother. And he wanted to get back to that, to specifically the room in Silent Hill 4. As kind of an ownership of what happened to him. And he decides to do this by horrifically murdering a ton of people, like in horrible ways, because to him, that is taking ownership of his life. As a complete foil to that, you have Henry. Henry is the best boy. Henry is a photographer. He's got creativity going on. He's obviously, not all of the lights are on upstairs, but he's got a little creative outlet. And Henry, we talked a lot about different toxic masculine traits, but it's important to really nail down the fact that those things are not inherently negative. And Henry exhibits really great positive masculine traits. He is protective. He shows a great strength of leadership. He's able to be empathetic and take care of others and really be there for him. When you play Silent Hill 4, you know, a lot of stuff is put upon him, but Henry very specifically goes out of his way to help people and take care of people and be there for him. He's truly my ideal man, and I would love to cuddle with him and spend time with him and get him some ice cream cones because he deserves a break.
Honestly, I do find it really meaningful that Henry gives us this window into the fact that masculinity is not bad, but hurting people is. Hurting people with it is. And so we're able to conclude on the image of the one dude who possibly does represent this positively through the franchise. And taking that into account, any closing points?
Yeah, you know, if I want to make sure that what you guys take away some really important stuff that we talked about today. Maybe you saw the game through a different light. Maybe you are able to think a little bit more about, how you experience some of these games. But if you take away anything from this panel, it's this. If you recall, Silent Hill is a tourist town.
I swear to God.
So there are very specific locations that I have pointed out where Dunkin' Donuts would be. Okay? There is definitely one in that convenience store because for some reason convenience stores always have a little stand of a Dunkin'. There's one probably next to that Queen Burger because it's in an intersection between the two bridges.
I don't know about it next to the Queen Burger.
Okay, but the gas station definitely has one.
Okay, the gas station has one.
And then on Matheson Street, you'll notice, I don't know if you can see from the text over there, but that was a Pete's Roasted Coffee, I think it says, or Fence. There's a roasted coffee shop. There is no longer a roasted coffee shop.
Oh, they're dead.
Dunkin' definitely took that one over.
They are gone.
And there's definitely one near the elementary school for all the traumatized parents to drop off their traumatized kids.
Obviously,
you get some Dunkin' on the way out.
Yeah, I mean, that just makes sense. Okay.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you so much for coming to our panel. We love you, MAGFest.
We have 10 minutes to take a few questions. If you have some, you can line up at the microphone here. We really, really, really appreciate having this time with y'all. I hope you enjoy the rest of MAGFest. If you don't learn anything today, please learn about how Dunkin' Donuts takes over many, many different cafes.
And if any of this really connected with you, make sure to check out Tango Mushi and Eurothug 4000's videos on Silent Hill 3 especially. The more voices we have playing in the space like this, the better. They both rule. They absolutely rule. We have a closing slide. And if we are not able to take your questions, we are going to hang out outside the panel room. We will stay there until 3 in the morning if we gotta. I would love to hear from you. Oh, you need to turn it on. It should be like a switch on it. Yay! Sorry about that.
2023 was a very exciting year for the Silent Hill franchise with the blockbuster mega hit Silent Hill Ascension sweeping the airwaves.
We're all Carl stans here.
In terms of that entry in the franchise, is there any characters in particular that jump out to you when viewed through the lens of feminist theory?
From the new stuff?
From Ascension?
Yeah.
You're so powerful.
How many dead wives can be in one video game?
I know.
Movie?
So the thing is with Ascension is that it's so close, right? It's so close because there's something that could be really mined from I forgot the European family's name, but the abusive mother that they're being haunted by, that is really telling a lot going on with the mom and the other religious cult and how she's trying to raise her daughter into being, she's trying to basically put her daughter through what Claudia put Heather through.
Yeah, Carl is going through the thing where it seems like he was an absentee father and a very distant father, wasn't able to provide emotionally for his family, and this makes him look like a villain to the rest of his family. I think to give Ascension maybe more credit than it deserves, there totally is something there.
I really do feel like they were very close. I don't know if you have seen like all of it so far.
Not up to
There's
date.
a scene where they're doing like a funeral for the mom that passes away in the very, very beginning. And it's revealed that she's not the greatest person. And this
Yeah.
funeral's very rough because of that. And there's like just a straightforward like, I'm just relieved. And that's like all they do. And it could have been so close to like really have that be pointed. I hope that something comes through as they're wrapping it up. I don't
Yep.
think it's over, or at the very least we haven't finished it.
Well,
but,
we're done with it.
but I hope there's more from that.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
for your question. What's up?
Howdy.
I think you need to get a little closer. Sorry.
Howdy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hi.
All right. So, it's generally pretty popular theory about Pyramid Head as an extension from James is
Yep.
part of him is wanting to be punished. But what do you have? Do you have any thoughts on the idea of Pyramid Head as a reflection of James, as far as if you have Maria as this hyper idealized version of Mary, and we consider James's subconscious desire to be punished?
Yep.
Do you feel that Pyramid Head could be seen as a reflection of James and the monster that he might be deep down?
Yeah, for
no,
sure.
definitely. James is subconsciously aware that he did something wrong.
Yeah.
And he won't really accept it unless you go throughout the journey. And Pyramid Head, being like incredibly buff, being strong,
Yeah.
being this force of
Of
for lack of a better term, sexual prowess, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah.
I can definitely see like that is the James that he both wishes he was, but also the James he's afraid he is.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah, no. I totally think that there really is something there, earnestly. Because if he comes from James, then that has to say something about James. And so acknowledging that, I think you're totally in the right space, that he is just as much a part of him as he does reflect bits of him he's scared of.
Yeah.
I really think that's the space to play in.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your
Have a
question.
great day.
Hello.
I'm so short. Nope. We're just gonna leave it there.
You
Hi.
break it, you buy it.
Can you hear me? Okay, cool. So in Silent Hill 2, there is a store that when you go inside, it says there was a hole
Yes.
here,
Oh,
but now it's gone.
I
Do you
love
believe that that was a donut hole from a delicious Dunkin' Donut?
Yes. 100%.
You have
okay?
made this so much worse, my friend.
Okay, I am adding that. Okay, I need you guys to understand. I genuinely have an entire
does.
40-minute presentation
Yes.
on this Dunkin'
She
thing.
just pulled
I made
slides
so
out
much
from it.
research.
It's astoundingly well
Okay,
researched.
Is there a link?
We
That's-
might actually.
But
Is
like,
there a link to that?
I haven't put it out, but I will. But the thing is, okay, that store is on like a main street, right? so maybe I think it was like a hardware store, right? Something like that. So like, if you're a construction worker, you want to go get some coffee
getting-
before you're doing something.
you're getting
right?
a box
so like
of
directly
Joe.
across the street was probably there's a gas station. There's the Dunkin', the gas station. There's the gas station Dunkin'.
Yeah. There was a donut hole here. It got eat now, is what that should say.
It got filled by a delicious Dunkin' Donut munchkin.
It got
Yes.
filled by a
Thank-
munchkin.
yes.
You're a king. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hello. I just wanted to say great panel and thanks for bringing it full circle because circles look like donuts.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, also, thank you for the great panel.
Thank you.
What do you think Henry's Dunkin' Donuts order would be?
Great question.
Henry's Dunkin' Donuts order?
I turn it to the
expert. The expert. Okay.
The expert.
Okay, so he's a photographer, right? And photographers are kind of psycho. I say this married to a photographer. I think if he's about to go to work, he gets like a straight black coffee espresso. Like the boy went and took photos in Silent Hill. Like that was his job for fun.
That's the level of psychosis it takes to drink Dunkin' coffee black.
Yes. So I think that's like his like I'm on the job order, and then his not on the job order is I want to say like an orange juice with
Whoa.
a French crawler.
Okay.
Okay, as he's relaxing, and then maybe like a total of like 6 munchkins, but he only eats 3 of them.
Ugh.
He always gets 6 because he thinks he's gonna want more, but he never
Yeah.
realizes that the French color is gonna fill him up.
That's true, actually, because he thinks it's airy, but the glazed part makes it pretty dense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's his order.
Yes, I agree. I agree on black coffee completely. I was also thinking he might just get like chocolate milk and a glazed.
Yes.
Oh, I love
Yes, because he's a
that.
good boy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
I think we have time for one more question, but
We have time for,
please.
like, 2 more, I
For
think.
2 more?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not leave. We are more than happy to chat with you right outside the panel
Yeah, we
room.
just have to give up the room. Hi, Heather. You look amazing.
You look amazing.
thank you
Your-
so much.
Your wig is fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. I got it when I was 16 and told myself for years I was going to cosplay Heather.
You're the
There you
best.
go.
I'm 27 now.
You're so.
Live your dreams, you
Live
know? Like, you get
your
to be.
dreams.
This is what Heather's fought for, is to
Yeah.
make
Yes.
your choice.
Yeah, quick comment and then a question.
Yeah.
Heather is one of my favorite. One of the big facts that I love about Heather is Heather does not curse until after that Henry dies
Yeah.
in Silent
Yeah.
Hill 3, and
Yeah.
how much of a daddy's girl she truly is.
Yeah.
So like really just like another expectation of like what a girl should be before they enter into.
Yeah.
100%.
And like Douglas is a little crappy about it. He's like, you're
Yep.
freaking out a little bit, and it's like, well, dude, her dad just died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I lost my father, and around that same age, so like getting through that, I was like, wow, this is the most realistic thing I've ever seen.
No, the fact that Heather's a daddy's girl too, and she's still kind of catering to a man before
Yeah.
she becomes a woman. But controversial question: what are your thoughts on Silent Hill Shattered Memories?
This is not a good thing to say. That was my first Silent Hill.
Homecoming was my first.
Homecoming. Okay, well that's worse. I mean, the idea of removing combat from Silent Hill is like not much of value was lost. But at the same time, I understand people who have issues with how it changes one story. But one already kind of like we talked about, there's depth to it. It's a good game, but there isn't a ton of depth to it. And I do have respect for wanting to reevaluate it and wanting to add a little bit more to it as they're moving forward. But that's just my take.
I think it's really good that she's getting some therapy. Yeah. I just wish. That's the thing, right? She needs a better therapist, because I wish it took account like into her agency a little bit more. And I don't know. I don't hate it. I know a lot of people like really hate it. I just feel like it kind of missed the shot.
Yeah.
It had a really good idea. I think it's really cool that like the answers that you put in will affect how different characters act and are in
Yeah.
the game itself. Like conceptually, mechanically, just like Ascension, like the idea is cool, but the execution needed a little bit more time, a little bit more time in the pot to cook.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, and I'd love to get a picture with you guys afterwards.
Yes,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Okay,
All
there you
right,
go.
one more question, then we're going to chat with y'all right outside.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
You know the pink female pyramid head, the girl online who dresses up like the bimbo
Yeah.
pyramid head.
Yeah.
If pyramid head comes from James,
Yeah.
who does she come from?
She comes from, like me, a very troubled woman dealing with her sexuality.
It comes from her.
It's very interesting because a lot of people, you know, like there's a lot of people who are like hot for Pyramid Head, and there's no judgment here. Like if that's
No.
what you're dealing with, that's what, like he is like buff. He is like he's got muscles or whatever. But I do hope people take the time to recognize where that comes from.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
have fun with it. But yeah, that's where that comes from.
But I will
and I
s-
relate.
I will say Mary deserves to have, Mary definitely, Maria as well deserves to have her own executioner running around trying to go after James Sunderland. That boy
Yeah.
ain't seeing heaven.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Our pleasure. We will be outside. Would love to speak with anyone who wants to speak with us.
Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy your MAGFest.
Enjoy your MAGFest!